And when it arrived, I was able to say yes. And I was able to say yes because my parents were supportive of it. They were distrustful of the recording industry because, you're going into like these random studios and recording. And my mom would come with me for every single recording for the first several years, until I was at least 22 or 23. She would come for every recording, more as a safety thing, just to make sure that I'm safe. And I think it was so beneficial that she attended all those sessions, because she came to also love the industry and also understand the positivity that was there.
All right. Hello to the good people, the ladies, the wonderful ladies and gentlemen over the internet. Today we have with us a very special guest. Like, she definitely doesn't need an introduction. The one and only Annette Philip. To sum up what she doesn't do, you require her voice. I'll not talk, which I generally do. But Annette ma'am, thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart for taking the time out to join for this session. It's humble. I'm humbled, honestly.
It's so much my honor, and thank you for the platform that to talk to you.
Thank you so much. Before we come at everything, every curious question I ever had in my tiny furry little brain, how does a normal day look like in Annette ma'am's life?
There's actually no day that kind of looks the same. There's a few things that I try to do every day. There's a little bit of meditation and some stitching and at least some amount of exercise. But other than that, it's quite different depending on what's going on at the time. So could be getting ready for shows or a tour. Or it could be a whole day of writing and just meetings, planning and visioning, a new production, or it could be just tons and tons of travel. So quite varied. There's a lot of there's a lot of movement in life in general. I think maybe that's the most common thread. A lot of movement.
So normally as artists and creative people, generally I think so, creative people have a lot of damn questions in their head all the time. Even if they're playing something, producing something, this is not good, that can be better. Even if it's better, you the next day know it can be more better. So it just never ends. It's a cycle. How did you as a musician, first and foremost, started out? Like, were you born into a family of music? Everyone worshipped vinyls that came into home. You were surrounded by music. What was the entire childhood like?
Born into a family that loved music, but no professional musicians in the immediate family or the extended family, and so just just people who definitely enjoyed listening to music. And I think probably what was most important for me was that my parents noticed my excitement for and passion for music, and also my curiosity, even way before passion happened. Intense curiosity about music and about the piano in particular. And I'm really grateful for my parents for noticing that, observing it, and taking some action, even though they didn't really know anything about the craft or even about piano in general. And it's really amazing that they heed of that, and kind of that's where it all started.
Such a wonderful atmosphere people wish sometimes they get into. at the very childhood, because normally what happens is when we like grow a bit older, like 13, 14, 15 years of age, we tend to mix with people of all different backgrounds. Someone is a farmer, someone is a musician, someone is this and that. And then we realize, okay, these are other aspects and avenues we maybe can explore. So it's such a delightful experience, I think. Um, uh, in terms
Yeah,
of,
I think the main thing.
yeah, please continue.
No, go ahead.
No, please.
I mean, it was a very small point that I don't think I knew that what I wanted to be, but I think it was very clear what was giving me the maximum joy, and that helped a lot. So that's the only point I was trying to make.
Wow. Now, did you have this realization from the very beginning, or at a later stage where you're thinking of, okay, what should I be doing for a career, or like what is pulling me, what is pulling my heart?
Probably age 4,
Wow.
between 3 and 4. Just feeling like, oh, I enjoyed my life. I was very blessed and very fortunate to have colorful childhood. And the thing that was the most exciting, most joy creating was music. So I wasn't really thinking so much into the future, which I think children are just enjoying being in the present. But it's definitely a sensory, visceral memory of knowing the joy quotient when it was related to music.
That's enlightening. Um, from what age do you like start your vocal journey, and or maybe playing an instrument, and then thinking, okay, I can take this to a certain level of mastery?
Age 5 was when I started piano lessons, and then voice was mostly self-taught all the way up till my, I would say, early 20s. So it was really more self-exploration and self-learning, listening to different people, experimenting, exploring, and getting opportunities to use that skill in different kinds of settings. But yeah, formal education in music, age 5 with piano.
Do you remember how much time you invested, energy and dedication you had while you were starting out? Like an hour of practice, 2, 3, 5 hours of dedicated time allotted for the craft.
Yeah, I mean, it was more like whenever there's time, let's just do this. And there wasn't that much else going on in our childhood. There's school, and I used to roller skating, so a little bit of roller skating in the day. But because it was so much fun, and it was not so much thing that I was thinking, oh, I have to practice, but I was enjoying messing with stuff, and so it was varied. My parents didn't really have a strict, disciplined regimen for me when it came to music, which I know a lot of trained musicians had that. They had their parents telling them to do riyaz, to do practice, and I didn't have. And I think there's pros and cons to that. But I think I was spending time on it based on enjoyment more than anything else. And I think that in later years, I realized, might be good to be even more consistent and really, really put in the time. So, yeah, but in the but in my childhood and my teenage years, yeah, it would be hours and hours, but, without any real agenda, just the enjoyment of it.
So it was just all organic, nothing like, you're not pushing yourself at all. It's like an enjoyment. It's a play.
Yeah, it was play, and there were opportunities to challenge ourselves. Once I was in middle school, actually even primary school, when I was back in India, there were these inter-school festivals or competitions, and those were opportunities where one could pick a song or pick several songs and try to challenge yourself. And so once that element came in, it was interesting because I was looking at my own skill level and looking at, okay, where do I want to be? What are some things that I can't do yet, which would be fun to try? And, all of those opportunities were just great because it gave you like a timeline by which you wanted to learn something or perfect something to whatever degree of, improvement. And so that was actually really fun to also do. But again, it wasn't really with pressure. It really was to enjoy yourself and to surprise yourself. And I think that is a good way to look at learning. What else can I do if I worked a little bit more on this or that? And it was a great way to grow.
That's really, really enchanting, honestly. Um, how are you as a? Now, there's a question every, normally every, especially in India, in households we have. How good are you at studies? So, keeping that question at the back of my head, how were you as a student in school?
Yeah, my parents were very clear with me that their was that I should be, acing my studies, and I was fortunate. I feel like there is something in absorbing educational material where something in your brain just clicks, and when that click happens, it can be at any age, but when that click happens, it's almost like you learn to learn. And I feel like a lot of educational systems, pedagogical systems, should be more about helping every individual find that click moment. And it's basically where, your brain sort of realizes how to compute information, how to memorize certain things, how to remember certain things, apply concepts and ideas. And I was being fine in, my initial years. My family moved to Singapore when I was age 3. And 3 to 11, we were in Singapore. And I was fine. I was good. I was, maintaining a certain level in my academics. And when we returned to India, age 11, I remember sitting at my desk in the bedroom and doing some mathematics. And suddenly, I remember that moment so well. Like something just shifted in my brain. And I was like, oh, it all just became really clear. And so I was very fortunate to stay in the click zone. I don't know why I'm calling it that, but kind of that space where your brain is able to compute things in a certain way. It's like an epiphany in some ways. And I stayed, since 11, I feel like that really stayed with me. And I was very fortunate to, be able to do music and regular academics as co-curricular parallel paths, neither taking away from the other, but really, again, enjoying it. I love math. I love, anything with numbers. And math and music is very correlated in any case. And so, yeah, I think my parents were wishing for that, and I was able to deliver. I don't know that there's a good or a bad thing with that. It's just, it's just a thing.
Wow. That will put me into a thoughtful state tonight. Um,
Mm.
so when you were like 18, 19, what was your like friend circle like? All aspiring, ambitious people, or like what were your surroundings all the time? Well, I think that
Mm.
is a very, very, very essential thing. Like who spend time with, what kind of people. So what was your?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I was an only child. So I was definitely spending time with older people, and in non-academic settings. But at school, yeah, I had, now that, I've never thought of it this way, but I was definitely surrounded by people who were driven and who enjoyed delivering certain results, even in very small things. It could be an art project, it could be, anything, like making a card for someone. But I think around me and also in my family, the main thing that I was seeing was people who cared about what they were doing and for whom it was important to at least attempt to do things in a beautiful way, in a respectful way, in an honorable way, do the work with some integrity, and also see, be aspirational. I think that was also something that I had within me, that I was always looking for the next thing and being excited about it, not from a point of view of, oh my God, I have to, do this, or I have to compete. It was never from a place of hostility or competition, but it was really from a place of, it's exciting to grow, it's exciting to learn, it's exciting to expand your mind, expand your skills. So I think everyone around me had a lot of those similar ideals, values, core fundamental belief systems, to the point of also being a con, not just pros all the way, but also the cons of that is that you sort of get into a cycle of overachieving sometimes, and you're pushing yourself constantly. And so I've had to really look at that in, as I've grown up, and I'm still growing up. I feel like I'm still having a great childhood. I always feel like my life is very playful and, fun. But I've really had to investigate that mentality and see what is healthy about it and what is not as healthy, and what are the things that I can let go and just kind of like, okay, I don't need that anymore. Because you do get into a place where sometimes it's never enough. Like you're
Yeah.
always looking at the next thing. And this year, I made a lot of shifts in my life, and I realized, okay, with this particular project, this much expansion is enough for now, and I'm going to, rather than trying to continuously grow it, I'm going to just sit with it where it is and maintain it. And there's value and beauty in that. And I think my slightly 6 months or 8 months ago self was still in the mentality of what next, what next, what next, what next, what next. And I think I'm still in the what next, but with a different value system, slightly different value system now. When
So basically, for the people I was saying, this podcast is not for you; it's for me. um, that's one of the most intriguing things I've ever heard from all of my guests till now on the session. Um, so coming to the more exciting question, I think the audience maybe also be waiting for this. Like, enough of you talking. Now ask the real question. How did like Did you sit one day and thought, I'll be a musician as a career? I'll be traveling the world, playing shows, collaborating with people, expressing all the musicality and the creativity and the inspiration inside me and throw it out in the world. I don't know how it's going to happen, but like, how was the process? Was it intense? You sat down with a pen, paper? How did it happen? Or did it happen like very natural to incline towards it?
Well, it's an interesting question because, it's not something that just happened in one sitting or one session or one introspective moment. There was a common thread from very young, so from age 3 or 4, which is this music world, everything that's involved with it. This is providing maximum joy. So it's a no-brainer that music has to be there constantly. Like whatever it is within music, it could be literally anything because there's so many millions of things that you can do within music. It was very clear that this has to be the common denominator. So that was clear from age 3 or 4, and really from the reason of why not? It's just fun. I mean, I intend to enjoy this life thing. So that's clear. However, as you grow up and, we're not growing up in isolation, we're growing up in a family, in a neighborhood, in a society, in a country, and, in a culture, most importantly. And I think the culture when I was growing up was seeing the arts primarily as a hobby and not as a profession. And so I, was too young to know or to have an opinion of my own until I tried different things. And so, I went into the commerce stream in high school and again, enjoyed it, had tons of fun. And then as I finished high school, it felt I had just entered the world of advertising. And I was, doing voiceovers and jingles. And that was like a light bulb went off. Oh, this is a completely different area of music. I mean, I was always performing, writing, composing, helping put groups together. But the advertising thing kind of made me realize, oh, you could use your writing skills, but also your musical skills. So could advertising be the next career thing, after high school? What could lead us to advertising? Okay, maybe it's media studies or journalism or, something in that lane instead of going into the commerce lane, which I was good at and I enjoyed, but didn't really have the music thing involved. And I ended up going to college for journalism and media studies. And that was great until I did my internship. And I was already a voiceover artist for Discovery Channel in Delhi. And they offered me an internship, which I had to do as part of my bachelor's degree. But when I did the internship, I realized, there's such an underbelly of the media world where, it really is that no time for anything else. It's a 24/7 commitment. And I got to the point where I realized, oh, while this seems to be connected, I actually have to sacrifice so much. I don't have time for music. And so after college, I decided I was thoroughly confused. And I decided, okay, maybe I need to take a year off. And, I don't know that I want to go for a master's immediately because, again, I had done really well in the journalism thing. I strangely, I don't know how it works, but I topped the entire the university, and it was strange to me because I wasn't that invested in it. But I think it's if you know how to give an exam, It's like it for me. I felt kind of strange about that. I was very grateful for the honor of it, but I was also it added to my confusion because I really wasn't going to go into journalism, and I was clear after the internship I wasn't going to go into media, the media world, except as a voice talent or a singer or a composer. I did not want to be on the other side as much as I love creating things. And then my father had his own business, and he said, oh, well, if you're going to take a year off, do you want to join and help out and work on this, whatever we're doing? So I said, okay, because I'm going to take some time off. Let me see what that feels like. And again, I think I keep going back to that flip moment. Once you realize how to deliver, you can basically be successful in any field that you go into. There's certain common things that you can do in literally any field, and you can deliver. And I delivered, and then at the same time, that was when I started this organization called Artists Unlimited in Delhi, and it was a performing arts collective, and the whole idea was that we were meeting all these musicians, but only at competitions, and all this hostility, and it just felt really strange to be so in love with music, but also to meet people who seemed to love music, but couldn't. There was like the wall. They just wouldn't interact with you because they saw you as their rival. And I just felt like there was something so wrong with that. Something didn't compute. And so I decided, well, maybe we need to create a platform. There's clearly a gap in our community, and it's strange to be hostile with the arts. So let's make a community that is doing really high quality, but is more nurturing and nourishing towards each other. And it's more about supporting each other, but not with any hampering or hindrance to the quality of what we do. And so that was kind of parallelly going. I'm working with my father and I'm running this organization. And about a year or two in, I realized, this was allowing me to be a full-time musician. It was allowing me to use my business acumen and my entrepreneurial skills. It was allowing me to be a mentor, a facilitator, a teacher, a leader, a visionary. I was also learning so much about the industry from the inside out. I got into licensing and legal stuff and, taxes and everything that would come with a small business or a startup. And I say small business, but, the first production we did was 60 people. The second production was 80 people. It was just growing so quickly. And I think every rupee or paisa I was making doing voiceovers and jingles, I was trying to kind of pour back into this entity to, be able to book venues and travel with the group and do tours and things like that. And so I did get to a point, and that I think was the one moment, I just called both my parents and I said, I really need to talk to you. I'm really afraid to say this to you, but I really have to say this to you. I can't work in the company anymore. I need to just do the music thing. And as you can see, this music thing with Artists Unlimited is everything. It's entrepreneurial, it's cultural, it's changing in our society, in the community. It's helping other groups. It's creating a sense of belonging. It's really high quality art. It's changing the audience understanding of choral music. It's giving many, many young people a to prove to their own families that music can be a viable practical and fulfilling career. So I got to just do this. And so I think out of all the things which were kind of gradual shifts, knowing that, okay, I need to commit to this thing was really pivotal. And yeah, I think right from the beginning, the music thing was a no-brainer. But deciding to drop everything else, took being in it, took testing it out, and took not enjoying it and realizing, okay, if I'm really not enjoying this, then why? Why do it? But also being responsible, also being clear about sustainability and knowing that I wanted to be financially independent. And I had reached that already by age 19 or 20, just from being in the recording industry. And so I think that is a key point. A lot of people will think about just focusing on it, and it's much harder to do if you're not financially independent. And I'm not saying it's not possible, but this time round, this life, it worked out that the financial independence had already arrived through the arts, through the creative stuff, and so I think there was less argument because they knew that I was already sustaining myself, and I don't say that with an ounce of pride, but really like 100% gratitude, because I didn't look for this. It arrived, and when it arrived, I was able to say yes, and I was able to say yes because my parents were supportive of it. They were distrustful of the recording industry because you're going into like these random studios and recording, and my mom would come with me for every single recording for the first several years, probably until I was at least 22 or 23. She would come for every recording, more as a safety thing, just to make sure that I'm safe. And I think it was so beneficial that she attended all those sessions, because she came to also love the industry and also understand the positivity that was there. And it was great. So it was a very long answer, but it's a complex question. It's very rarely a single moment. But I think we are allowed to take our time to make big life decisions.
Normally, children or teenagers, when they grow up to a certain age where they have to earn a living or support their families, because especially in India, what happens is a lot of people are normally from the middle class and the lower middle class, so they have aspirational, ambitious dreams, but at the same time they have to pay for their electricity bill and buy chawal and dal and everything the next month. So normally what happens is, if a particular person sees up and thinks, okay, these are the 10 options which has been there for years, it's been discussed all the time, like if you're a CA, great. If you're a creative person, nutcase, something of that sort. So did you, like, when you were recording and doing all of these things, you were involved at a very pivotal level, you were very involved in everything. How did you, and still now, how did you take and process feedback and criticism? Because creative people, like whatever art form we talk about, Indian classical, whatever music we talk about, jazz, blues, metal, anything, is not liked by everybody. Everyone will not admire your work. That's for 110%. So till date, from that age, when you were growing up and realizing, doing music, did whatever you wanted to, learned a lot, until now, how did you, like, do you still take and process criticisms? What's your way?
Yeah, even now people say, so what do you do? I'm a musician, but do you really do? You know, how do you pay the bill? It's not
Yeah.
even when I went to study at Berkeley, you know, I would meet other Indian families at some gatherings, not my family, but just other people in the neighborhood, and they say, "Oh, you go to music school, so you just sing all day? Like, what do you do?"
Exactly.
I think, you know, my own family, my dad, until I had to pay taxes from my recording work, my father definitely only saw this as a hobby. And at age 19, I think, was when I had earned enough that I had reached the first tax bracket, the lowest tax bracket, but nonetheless the tax bracket. And it really struck him at that point. But I had to be patient, with his mindset until then, and even beyond. You know, there have been times where, although my parents are really wonderful and they're very supportive, and I think a lot of the support came because I also honored their wishes for a very long time. I really tried to uphold anything that they'd asked from me. I really tried to show them I'm serious, I'm committed, and I'm committed to this thing, this music craft, creative thing. But even then, they would say, oh, so and so. I think comparisons are just a natural human tendency. And so the best method, in my opinion, is there's a phrase, keep your eyes on the prize. And it just means to keep your why very, very clear in your head, and keep looking for other people who are in the path that you want to be in, or even close to the path, or parallel paths, or crisscrossing paths in the place that you want to go. And I think continue to get inspiration from them, and continue to believe that you can actually do, have, or be anything that you want to be. Like that's core fundamental belief, if you can build in yourself, that I can have, be, and do anything that I envision for myself, anything, then this is all just white noise. It's just white noise. It's hard, and you do have to, I think, go back to the why, go back to what makes you happy. And it's not money that's necessarily going to make you happy. That's a myth. It might be something else. It might be, I don't know, living in a place where they don't use money. Maybe that's what your, core happiness comes from. But I think people have opinions for many reasons. A lot of times people, your parents or your family might have a certain mindset or an opinion, and it's really coming from them wanting to see you succeed, them wanting you to be safe, to be healthy, to be able to take care of yourself and them, depending on the situation. And I think if you can separate, this is coming from a good intention, and they don't necessarily understand, I can still love them for the good intention, and I can still ignore the thing that they don't understand yet. And I have really had a personal epic journey with my parents, not just on the music front, but on many different topics, from religion to relationships to everything. Like, they really changed. They really understood me, but I had to stay very centered in my own belief. I had to really stay there. And it was, definitely painful periods of time, of misunderstanding, of confusion, of uncertainty. But I kept going back to my own inner happiness. And I think that most parents, ultimately, they just want you to be happy. And if they can see that you're able to maintain that happiness, if with the right kind of mentality, every person is different. But I have to, like, I bow to my parents for their ability to evolve in their thinking, in their decisions, in what they think is right and wrong has changed so much in the last several decades. It's astounding, and someone told me recently that initially our parents raise us, and at a certain point we begin to raise our parents in their thinking and their outlook and their perspective, but it's a long process. I'm talking about a decade. I'm talking about 2 decades of shifting, slow shifting, like the plates under the surface of the earth, there's like slow shifting is happening. Yeah. So stick with it. I think that's what I would say. And for me, it was just that. Stick with it. Stay the course.
Prolonged period of efforts and consistency, and the most important thing is, I think, patience. So because right now, with the advent of internet and musicians everywhere, the amount of patience we had 3-4 decades before and the amount of patience we have right now, it's just if probably there was a third person outside Earth observing us, they would be like, you guys are pathetic now. You were good back 50 years. What have you become? 10 seconds, we hear the intro of a song and we're like, this is not good. But back in the day, when you bought a CD or a record of any band or musician, whatever, singer, songwriter, play them and just sit. For example, if you love a guitar solo or a saxophone solo in a particular blues song or something of that sort, you would sit and wait for that 3-minute 23-second moment to arrive when the solo starts. You can't skip 1 minute 23 seconds more right now, which you can do. So how do you think has technology, of course, has pushed music to be more democratized? Everyone can have access now. Like, for example, in the terms of business, back when people had to build brick and mortar stores to open a business, now we don't need a 20-50 lakh rupee of capital to make a business and take it to a good level. So if I come back to the music aspect, technology has uplifted the music, but somewhere there's also, like, with every innovation, there's a good and a bad. So how do you see technology necessarily with your years of experience and seeing how the industry has evolved, be it in the culture area, the entire crafts area, how people perceive it, how musicians deliver them?
I think technology is amazing. And I think that, with every revolutionary invention or period in history, when trains first became a thing, or when printing first happened, or when fire first was, if we go back all the way, there's always use, misuse, and abuse of anything, and I think we're in an amazing period. Maybe you could say that there is some part of society that has a lower attention span, or I shouldn't say lower, but a shorter attention span due to the kind of media and social media that we consume. It's changing our consumption patterns. But there is a lot of art, multidisciplinary art, that is created still on a daily basis, that is still long form. and that is very much enjoyed and consumed and cherished because of the long form. And I think it's so easy for us to kind of pick the average and be like, oh, now we're like this and now we're, but if you look at the example of someone like Jacob Collier, who really came into our homes and on our phones through social media and through YouTube and through technology, where he was able to sing with himself, 6,000 times or whatever, and inspire a whole generation of people, and now is also taking that on the road and being in stadiums with 30,000 people and have them sing together. He is revolutionizing so many things. And I feel like he's one of the best examples, or one of my favorite examples, of someone who embraces technology in the most artful, creative, innovative, beautiful, musical ways. And so I am very optimistic about technology, and I feel like there's so much good that's happening with technology. And I think it's up to each of us to decide how we utilize it. And I think there is a fine balance, because technology is so pervasive and like kind of, what's the word? Omnipresent, so to speak, that you could cross the line and realize that technology is using you or owning you some ways, like Netflix. So it's so easy and so delicious to binge watch something. But you also have to kind of keep your brain on, keep your heart on. And that's the thing. It's not that technology is bad. I think that we fall into certain patterns, but we also have the power and the choice to disassociate when we need to, so detoxing from socials, or deciding, or putting a timer on Netflix, or just, deciding, how do I want to use this? Because it's here to stay, and it is making the human experience profound in its own way. And nature is still profound, and human interaction is still profound, and connections are still profound, and books are still profound. All of it, like, we just have so much to choose from. But I think the choice lies with us, and we have to remember that we have the power to use it in whatever way we want. So I'm very grateful for technology. I think it's amazing, and I'm still optimistic.
That's once again intriguing. You took the example of Jacob Collier. Like, I've heard that guy take a bunch of 30,000 people and sing those choirs, and I'm like, how is he executing in that level? This side is singing in a different pitch. This side is in a completely different, like, 3 words in one theater. Like, just we have to just sit and tear rolling down our eyes, and I'm like, yeah, a bit more, yes, my brains will blow off right now. It's absolutely great. And also a lot of musicians have found that, okay, through internet we can express our music. Anybody can record or produce a decent sounding single and put it on Spotify, and if 15 people also listen to it, that's good. That's enough.
Yeah.
When you visited Berkeley, how was your experience over there? Because that's a completely different world outside of what you have been growing up in and thought, okay, music is this. And then you are already in certain aspects, you were like, no, music is this. Okay, no, it is this. Oh, no, I was wrong. Maybe it's a mixture of this and this. So how did that brain shift or aha moment happen that, okay, this is something completely different that I can experience?
No. So I don't know that I had that. Uh, I'm talking about what you said, like, oh, music is this, oh, now it's this. I I think that I always saw music as an ocean,
Ah,
um, and so vast, and I'll I'll never know it all, and I'll never get done with learning about it. And also, like you just talked about technology, technology is shifting music and music consumption and music learning and music making in so many different ways. Uh, so it's like ocean upon ocean, like it's like the just got deeper if you think of the added layer of technology. So I was very aware and very excited again just to be able to go somewhere and be surprised. And that's exactly what happened. I arrived at Berkeley the first day, and it was amazing. Just, now if I close my eyes, I can see, I'm standing on the street and there's hundreds of people crisscrossing and wearing instruments and carrying instruments, wearing instruments, rolling instruments, being an instrument, at singers, we are the instrument.
Instruments, yeah.
And so on the street itself, it's like, oh, wow, it's like a country, of musicians, of artists. And then you go down into the buildings and you go through the corridors and you're hearing every possible sound, all these genres kind of just mixing, because the practice rooms are, there are many corridors full of practice rooms back to back to back to back. And each one has a window, so you can hear. They're not soundproofed, so you have to really like focus when you're practicing your own piece. You'll be hearing, metal on one side and someone doing opera on the other side and someone doing beatboxing, and it's just all this sound constantly going on. But it really is like an alternate dimension. That's what it felt like to me. That's what I called my mom and dad, and I said, yeah, this is like another planet. And at Berkeley, the main thing that I had to decide to do was deciding what not to do, because there's so much that you can immerse in. And I think maybe not most, but maybe 50% of people who go to Berkeley, and I was in that 50%. When we finished Berkeley, we realized what we really wanted to study. It's like it's like impossible. And I have such awe and respect, and mainly awe, for people who come in and really know what they want and get it done the first time. Because it's just like, oh, I want to do that, I want to do that, I want to do this. So, I think I could probably do Berkeley 3 or 4 times over and do something completely different. But it was a really amazing experience, and I think it's a great community. It's a great place where literally anything is possible. If you have a vision, and also if you know how to get things done, you can do pretty much anything. It's really a place of great possibility. And you will hear people say the absolute opposite. So it really is about your attitude, your
it's
drive.
subjective.
Yeah. But the Berkeley I met, and the Berkeley I went to, and the Berkeley I'm still at, it's a great, it's just a land of infinite opportunities. It's a playground, So that's, again, but it's a personal experience.
I mean, that's why they didn't soundproof probably the engineer who sat with the Berkeley people thought, okay, let's do one trick here. I'll not soundproof all the practice rooms. Let me see how they grow their concentration power.
I don't think they were thinking that much. But it was I think it was an unintended outcome. Yeah, because we do have other practice rooms in other buildings that are very well soundproofed.
Okay.
So I think it was when I joined, it's over 10 years ago. So yeah, at that point it was not soundproof. Yep.
The first time I heard Berkeley Indian Ensemble, I mean, it took me a week or so to listen to the entire discography, understand what was going on, because I don't know a thing about Indian classical. I'm illiterate down to the bottom, and every genre possibly. I've never heard, I've heard classical and fusion stuff, but I've never heard this level of, what's that word? Execution and the profoundness of what's going on. So I don't know about the audience. About me, how did such an, I'll not call it an ensemble, I'll not call it a band, experience formed?
Yeah, it was a gift. I joined faculty in 2010, and a week or two into being there, the leadership team asked me if I'd like to start something new that didn't exist. What would you do? It was really a gift, a blank canvas. And having recently graduated from Berkeley at that point, I knew that there was interest in Indian music, but there wasn't any performing collective that was exploring many different styles of Indian music. And my training is not in Indian music at all. My training is always in actually more Western classical, and then I was always interested in gospel, R&B, hip hop, and I said jazz, those kind of things. But it was clear that similar to Artists Unlimited, there was a gap, and so how do we fill that gap? And I had two questions that have always been with me, and those two questions are what if and why not? And the what if was, how about if we could have a space for musicians from any country to come and explore Indian music in, Indian genres, but also bring their own cultural flavor to the music that we are co-creating. And yeah, why not start it? And, I had some trepidation because I had a little bit of imposter syndrome. And at the same time, I knew that I have a very strong intention, and I already had kind of a vision for where this might go. And knew that I had studied enough music to be able to facilitate a space. And I knew also, thanks to my close friends, that I don't need to know everything. I can create a space where we contribute all our ideas, and I get to learn. So why not? Just go start it. Just see what happens. And the first semester we did a recital, and there were so many people who showed up. We barely announced. And whatever doubt was in my mind about, whether this would take off or really have, really grow, was squashed. That first recital we did, it was May 2011, and it was clear. And my normal instinct kicked in, which is, okay, what next? what next? We're going to up this. We're going to expand this. And it was really exciting. And it kept growing. We started bringing artist residents, so we had Clinton Cerejo first, and then Rahman sir the next year. Then we had Vijay Prakash, and then Shankar Mahadevan, Shreya Ghoshal, Zakir Hussain. Indian Ocean came once. We had Shadow and Light. And just each one, we tried to make it a little bit bigger. And then we started doing workshops in different parts of the world, including in India. We started raising funds for scholarships. We started doing some teacher training. We when the pandemic hit, we started doing online workshops. Then we also started exploring the music and mental health space, and it's just been so interesting. And now, now there's hundreds and hundreds of South Asians at the college. When I was at Berkeley as a student, there were only 2 or 3 other South Asians, and it was so. It's really been beautiful to see the growth of South Asian representation, not just in the Boston campus, but also in Spain and in New York. And and the amount of learning has been just unbelievable. And, I think that if you can create a space that is respectful, non-competitive, very nurturing, very open, then, and you're doing music at the highest quality possible, with whoever is in the room that year, it keeps fluctuating, but the intention is we're going to really try to do this amazingly, and we're going to welcome all the ideas and finesse it and finesse it and finesse it. And as you use the word, you used a word which we use a lot, which is experience. How can we create a experience, whether it's a live concert or an experience in just a music video? We really take care of the arc of every thing that we offer into the world, and try to love it and pour love into it. And I think also really pouring time and love into the interpersonal relationships. And that makes a difference because, and I want to be very blunt and honest. When you have, even 5 people, and they could have grown up in the same locality, the same neighborhood, there's bound to be differences. So can you imagine when you have people from 50 plus countries come, there's going to be some conflict. And yes, there are times when it doesn't work and it's a real rub. There's an aura clash, there's a personality clash. But overall, you keep coming back to your why, and you keep coming back to the intention is really high quality music made in an environment of care and adventure, and that keeps us growing, but also keeps us trying to be good to each other, and be open to failing. We have failed a lot, made a lot of mistakes, tons of mistakes, personally also, tons and tons of mistakes. But I mean, that's one of the ways you grow. And it's been really interesting and really fun. And now we're in kind of an empire expansion mode. We released the first album, and we got a Grammy nomination for that, and so beautiful to do that. And we're already planning album 2, and we now have the institute is called Berkeley India Exchange. We have an education wing, an innovation and industry wing, and a community wing, and it's firing all parts of that machine. The big machine are firing, and it's really a amazing, inspiring place to be, and so grateful for the massive amounts of people who come through it. And it's You can start an idea, but if you don't have amazing people who join you, it's not going to go very far. So it's really it's taken a country. It's its own country of people, pushing this forward.
I mean, the way everything is delivered, like, even if a musician hears what's going on in a particular song. I remember the first one I heard was Gia Jaledi, and I was like, I mean, how can one possibly execute something at this level? How professional one has to be, or how good at their craft and how finesse they should be showing to deliver something of this level. And I was like, and it kind of honestly inspires, okay, no, let me practice 1 hour more. Let's figure out some more major 7 chords and theory and everything. So in that way, I think it is kind of inspired not only me, but every admirer and fan of Berkeley Indian Ensemble as an experience. Again, I'll not use the word band. It's an experience altogether. I'll come to the very last question of the session. It's been I'm running out of words. You've taken all words from me. So, yeah. Out of your decades of being a visionary, an entrepreneur, a musician, or in a big umbrella term, a creative person, can you share 3 practical advices with me and to everybody who's listening that they can act upon right now?
Okay. First, I'd say find a why that makes you happy. If you're starting anything, even starting a family, I think happiness is really happiness, joy, glee. It's really important, because if you're not enjoying it, it's hard to sustain. So, and it's applicable to everything. It's applicable to your career, to your life partner, to the friends that you have. And at the core of it, there must be enjoyment. I think you need to be able to have fun, because if it's hard all the time, you'll burn out, and you'll burn out anyway, even if you're having fun. So at least, something has still got to be fun. And if some part of the why, like the big why, some people, it's like, I want to help people, I want to serve, a community, or I want to grow plants, or I want to dance. Whatever the why is, be really clear on it and make sure that there's a joy element there for you to fall back on, because you'll have to fall back. It's like a safety net. The joy part for me is always the safety net, because you'll constantly fall. So that's one. 2 is get really good about asking for help. Ask for help, but it's an art to ask and receive. So get really good at asking for help, and also provide help, where you can. Set your boundaries. That's fine. It's not like you have to go out of your way and help every single person, because at some point, you'll only be doing that. And I think we've all been there too. But I think especially as South Asians, we're much better at helping people than asking for help. And I really had to learn it. I really had to get good at asking for help. And that can look like many different things. It can mean delegation. It can mean sharing. It can mean getting a therapist. It can mean getting a coach, getting a teacher. It can mean just realizing that you don't have to do everything on your own and not having your ego tied up with it. Because a lot of times when we don't ask for help, we think that we can do our own. And yeah, you can probably do it on your own, but you might go much faster and much further if you just got a little bit of help. And I think it's a powerful trait. And I don't mean it in the way of just, loosely depend on everybody to do stuff for you. I think there's a difference between knowing how to be self-sufficient and being smart and efficient by asking for help and, knowing when to lean on yourself and when to lean on others. I think that's really, and it's a skill. It takes practice. Yeah. And the third, do something just for yourselves, just not for anybody else. It's really easy to make everything external facing. Yeah, think about yourself. A lot of people don't do it, or they think they are, but they're not really. And that could mean really meditating or exercising or not eating, post a certain time, going to bed, taking a shower, making your bed, doing picking days to do nothing, taking a holiday without guilt, or even saying no to somebody because you don't have the energy. Leaving a party early, not going out, or taking a day and just going and lying in the grass somewhere, whatever it is for you. And again, it's not just for self-care, but also your own creative projects. I found it very easy to keep focusing on external things or things for the community. And it's a new skill that I'm building, which is, hey, I'm doing this for me, only for me, only for me. It takes some time. There's guilt attached to it. There's shame. There's a notion of being selfish. I think it's very healthy to, if you have to deem it as selfish, if that's the only way you will look and do something for yourself, and that you're gonna brand it as selfish, go ahead and brand it as selfish. But you should do it. I think you should focus on you. Yeah. Okay, so those three.
I mean, what a wait. What a point to end on. On the bed example, we Indians are very good at wrapping our beds. That's an art we haven't learned. We're born with it. Subah utke, we have to just fold the damn thing and finesse. MasterChef Australia. I mean, for the audience who has been sticking to the session this far, it's likely that you are. As I said at the very starting, she definitely doesn't need an introduction, but it's my honor having you, ma'am, on the show. I've been, it's an eye-opening session, not just for the audience, for me as well. I got to learn aspects of things from a person who has already done things which I aspire for. So that's really, really sweet of you for taking the time out and joining in for this session. It's a fantastic session till now, late. For the audience, I'm saying I'll put all the links of our work down in the description, everything. You've already listened it. Go listen to it twice. There's no harm. And it's free.
Okay. Yeah,
With
thank you.
all due... Mhm.
So grateful and really enjoyed the conversation, and really excited to see what you keep doing in your creative endeavors. And thank you so much for kind of taking me back in time, and also for really beautiful, insightful questions. You're a real natural at this craft, and this is a craft.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It's really been an honor.
It's my honor talking to you and learning a lot from you. Thank you so much, and I look forward to everything you accomplish in the next 1,000 years. You'll live for 1,000 years, that's for sure. Thank you so very much, and have a wonderful weekend ahead.
Yes, to you also. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay.